It was a Tuesday morning in March. A guy named Kevin, 47 years old, works in construction outside of Dallas, pulled his 2018 F-150 into my shop. He had 74,000 miles on that truck, not even close to high mileage. The truck was his livelihood. He hauled equipment, towed trailers, used it every single day. He sat down across from me and slid a dealer estimate across the table. Engine replacement, $14,000. The dealer told him his 3.5 EcoBoost had catastrophic bearing wear, the kind of damage they said usually happens after 200,000 miles. His truck had 74,000. Kevin was not an irresponsible owner. He changed his oil on time. He used the right oil weight. He never pushed the truck too hard. He never missed a service. He looked at me and said, and I remember this exactly, he said, "I did everything right." How is this possible? I asked him one question. Did your truck have auto start stop? He said, yeah, of course, it's a 2018. I asked, did you ever turn it off? He looked at me confused. He said, I didn't know you were supposed to. That was the entire answer. A feature Ford put on his truck, a feature Ford markets as fuel-saving technology, a feature Ford never once warns you about in any way that actually matters, had been slowly, silently, invisibly destroying his engine every single day for 3 years. And Kevin had no idea. Today I am going to show you exactly what auto start stop does to your F-150's engine. I am going to show you the science, the real engineering data behind why this feature exists, why it fails, and why Ford chose to put it on your truck anyway. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do tonight, before your next drive. That could save you $10,000. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you is not a theory. It is not a mechanic's opinion. It is physics. And once you understand it, you will never let this feature run on your truck again. Before I show you the damage, I need to give credit where it's due. The engineers who designed auto start stop were not incompetent. They were not trying to hurt your truck. They were solving a real problem: fuel economy standards. Federal regulations forced automakers to hit specific MPG targets by specific years. Auto start stop, on paper, reduces fuel consumption by shutting the engine off every time you come to a stop, at a red light, in traffic, at a drive-thru. Ford's own marketing says auto start stop can improve fuel efficiency by up to 3% in city driving. 3%. Let me put that in real numbers for an F-150 owner. At current gas prices, 3% fuel savings on a truck that gets 18 miles per gallon city works out to roughly $4 per month for the average driver. $4. Now remember Kevin's $14,000 estimate. We will come back to that number. Here is the thing Ford does not put in the commercial. Here is the thing that is not on page 1 of your owner's manual in large bold letters. Here is the uncomfortable truth that every F-150 owner deserves to know before they drive off the lot. Internal combustion engines are not designed to start and stop dozens of times per day. They were engineered for 1 cold start per trip, maybe 2 if you stop somewhere and come back. The entire lubrication system inside your engine was built around that assumption. And auto start stop violates that assumption every single time it activates. This is not a design flaw in your engine. Your engine is fine. This is a fundamental conflict between 2 systems that were never meant to work together the way Ford combined them. And your bearings are paying the price. Let me take you inside the engine. I want you to see what happens at the molecular level every time auto start stop shuts your F-150 down at a red light. When your engine is running, the oil pump, driven directly by the crankshaft, circulates pressurized oil through every critical component. Bearings, camshafts, turbocharger journals, everything that spins or slides is coated in a film of oil so thin you cannot see it. A few microns thick, but that film is what stands between metal and metal. That film is what keeps your engine alive. The moment auto start stop shuts the engine down, 2 things happen simultaneously. First, the crankshaft stops spinning, which means the oil pump stops pumping. Immediately, no delay, oil pressure drops to 0 within seconds. Second, and this is the part nobody talks about, gravity begins pulling that oil film off the bearing surfaces. Not instantly, but over the 30, 40, 60 seconds your engine sits at that red light, the oil that was protecting your bearings drains away. Now the light turns green. Auto start stop fires the engine back up. And here is the critical moment that is destroying trucks across America right now. In the first fraction of a second after restart, Before oil pressure rebuilds, your bearings are spinning metal on metal. Dry contact. No lubrication. The oil pump has not had time to reprime the system. The galleries have not refilled. For a brief window, engineers call it the boundary lubrication phase. Your engine is running unprotected. One restart. No problem. The damage is microscopic. You will never feel it. You will never hear it. 10 restarts. You will still feel nothing. The damage is still invisible. But auto start-stop on an F-150 in city traffic can cycle 30, 40, sometimes 50 times in a single commute. 50 dry starts. Every day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year. Do the math on 3 years. That is somewhere between 22,000 and 37,000 unprotected restart events on your engine bearings. Each one is a tiny scratch, a microabrasion, an imperceptible removal of material from a surface that was machined to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Over thousands of cycles, those microabrasions compound. The bearing's surface roughens. Clearances widen. Oil consumption increases. Blow-by increases. Eventually, and this is exactly what happened to Kevin's truck, the bearing wear reaches the threshold where the engine cannot maintain normal oil pressure. And by then, the damage is catastrophic. I have measured bearing wear on EcoBoost engines with auto start-stop enabled versus engines where the feature was disabled from the beginning. Same model year, same oil change intervals, same driving patterns. The difference in bearing surface where it's 75,000 miles is not subtle. It is dramatic. The auto start-stop engines show where patterns I would expect to see at 150,000 miles or more. Now I want to make this worse. Because with the 3.5 EcoBoost, Ford's most popular F-150 engine, there is a second layer of damage that most people never connect to auto start-stop. Your EcoBoost has 2 turbochargers, twin turbos spinning at speeds up to 150,000 revolutions per minute. At those speeds, the turbo bearings and shaft journals require continuous pressurized oil flow not just to lubricate, but to actually float the spinning shaft on a film of oil. The entire system depends on sustained oil pressure. When auto start-stop shuts the engine down, the turbos do not stop immediately. They spool down over several seconds. During that spool down, they are still spinning, sometimes at 40,000 to 60,000 revolutions per minute, and the oil supply is already cut off. This is called heat soak. The residual heat from the turbine housing migrates into the center section, cooking the oil that is left in the journals, breaking it down, leaving carbon deposits on the shaft. On a normal shutdown at the end of a trip, this is manageable. The turbo spins down, you walk away, the heat dissipates, and the next startup clears things out. But auto start-stop restarts the engine while that heat soak is still happening, while the turbo is still hot, still partially spinning, still cooking that residual oil. Then it shuts down again at the next red light, and cooks it again, and restarts, and cooks, and restarts. I have pulled turbos from EcoBoost engines at 80,000 miles that look like they came out of a race car at the end of a season. The shaft journals show scoring. The bearings show coking. That is what we call the baked-on carbon deposits. And the owners of those trucks, without exception, had never disabled auto start-stop. They had no idea. A turbo replacement on the 3.5 EcoBoost is not a weekend job. You are looking at $1,200 to $2,200 per turbo at an independent shop. Ford dealerships charge considerably more. For both turbos plus labor, budget $5,000 to $7,000. And that is before we talk about the bearing damage underneath. Here is what makes me angry about this situation. And I want to be precise about who I am angry at, because I am not angry at Ford's engineers. I am angry at the decision that was made above the engineering level. Ford's engineers knew about the boundary lubrication problem with auto start-stop before the feature launched. This is documented in automotive engineering literature. The solution exists. BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, and several other manufacturers who use auto start-stop pair it with what is called an electric auxiliary oil pump, a secondary pump that maintains oil pressure at the bearings during the engine off phase, so that when the engine restarts, the lubrication is already in place. Ford chose not to include that auxiliary pump on the F-150, not because they did not know it was needed, because it added cost to the vehicle. The auxiliary pump adds somewhere between $80 and $150 to the manufacturing cost. On a truck that retails for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, that cost was deemed acceptable to eliminate. So instead of spending $150 to protect your engine, Ford gave you a feature that saves you $4 a month in fuel while accelerating bearing wear that can cost you $10,000 to $14,000 to repair. And they marketed it as fuel-saving technology. And they never put a warning in the owner's manual that says, "This feature accelerates engine wear and should be disabled if you want your engine to last." The owner's manual does tell you how to temporarily disable auto start-stop by pressing a button. It does not tell you that you should disable it every single time you start the truck. It does not tell you why the button exists. It does not tell you what happens if you do not press it. And most F-150 owners, like Kevin, never even think to ask. Kevin's truck is currently sitting in a salvage yard in Texas. He could not afford the repair. He took out a loan on a new truck. He is paying that loan back right now. And the feature that destroyed his engine, the feature Ford put on every F-150 starting in 2017, is running on his new truck too. Because he still does not know he needs to turn it off. Because Ford still has not told him. Now here is the part that should make you feel something between relief and fury. The fix is free. It takes 4 seconds. And it will work on every F-150 from 2017 onward that has this feature. Option 1 is the obvious one. Press the Auto Start Stop Disable button every single time you start your truck. It is usually located on the center console, marked with an A with a circle around it and a slash through it. When that button is lit up, the feature is off. Your engine will not shut down at red lights. Your bearings will not experience dry restarts. Your turbos will not heat soak repeatedly. The problem with option 1 is that the setting does not save. Every time you start the F-150, Auto Start Stop resets to on. Ford designed it that way deliberately, because if it defaulted to off, the fuel economy numbers would not meet federal standards, and Ford could face regulatory penalties. So you have to press that button every single trip, every single time, without exception. If you drive to the grocery store and forget to press it, you get 30 dry restarts on the way there. One forgotten press undoes nothing permanently, but the habit has to be automatic. Option 2 is permanent, and it is what I recommend to every F-150 owner who comes through my shop. It is called a module default change, and it requires a free piece of software called FOR Scan and a $12 OBD2 adapter from Amazon. FOR Scan communicates directly with your F-150's BCM, the body control module. Inside that module is a parameter that controls the default state of auto start-stop on startup. With FOR Scan, you can change that default from on to off permanently. The feature still exists. You can turn it on manually if you ever want to, but it will no longer activate automatically when you start the truck. You never have to think about it again. This is not a void your warranty modification. It is a software parameter change within Ford's own system. Thousands of F-150 owners have done this. It is documented extensively in F-150 forums. It takes about 20 minutes the first time, and the results are permanent. Now I want to give you 2 more habits that stack on top of disabling auto start-stop to significantly extend your EcoBoost life. These cost nothing. They take no time. But most F-150 owners never hear them. The first is the cold start idle. When you start your F-150 in the morning, especially in temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, let the engine idle for 30 to 45 seconds before you put it in gear and drive. 30 to 45 seconds is enough for oil to circulate through the galleries, for turbo bearings to get pressurized lubrication, for the entire system to wake up properly. This is especially critical because of how the EcoBoost variable cam timing system operates during cold starts. The VCT system needs oil pressure to actuate correctly. If you put the truck in gear and immediately accelerate before oil pressure stabilizes, the cam phasers can make a rattling noise. That is a sound F-150 owners call the cold start rattle, and some of them have been hearing it for years without understanding that it is their cam phasers running dry for a fraction of a second every morning. The second habit is oil change interval. Ford's factory recommendation for the 3.5 EcoBoost is up to 10,000 miles with full synthetic. In ideal conditions, highway driving, mild climate, no towing, that interval is acceptable. But if you drive in stop-and-go traffic, if you tow regularly, if you live somewhere with extreme heat or cold, or, especially, if you have been running auto start-stop without disabling it, cut that interval in half. 5,000 miles. The additional oil change costs you $30 to $40, and it removes degraded oil that carries the acids and metal particles generated by those boundary lubrication events before they can cause additional wear. Think of it this way. The oil in your engine is the only thing that witnessed every single restart event auto start-stop put your truck through. It absorbed those micrometallic particles. It carried the contamination from those dry contact moments. Changing it more frequently removes that evidence before it can recontaminate the system. It is the difference between an engine that lasts 300,000 miles and one that fails at 80,000. I want to come back to Kevin for a minute. After his truck was gone and he was driving his new F-150 off the lot, he came back to the shop one more time. Not for a repair, just to talk. He asked me if there was anything he could have done differently, whether there were any signs he missed, whether the engine had been trying to warn him. The honest answer is no. There were no warning lights. There was no unusual noise until the bearing wear had already progressed beyond saving. The truck drove normally right up until it didn't. That is the nature of this kind of damage. It accumulates in silence, below the threshold of detection, for months and years, and by the time it announces itself, it is already too late. But I also told him something else. I told him the damage was not his fault. He is not a mechanic. He trusted Ford. He assumed that a feature Ford put on his truck, marketed as beneficial technology, labeled with a professional-looking button, was something that existed to help him, not something that was quietly costing him a component at a time. Before he left, I showed him the FOR scan procedure on his new truck. We did it together in the parking lot. 20 minutes. The auto start-stop default was changed. The button on the dash still works. He can turn it on manually if he ever wants to prove a point, but it will never activate on its own again. He drove away that day with the same truck, the same engine, the same EcoBoost, and a fundamentally different outcome waiting for him at the end of that engine's life. Not because anything mechanical changed, because one software parameter changed, because he finally knew what the dealership never told him. Here is the final truth that Ford does not want to be the headline of a YouTube video. Auto start-stop was not designed for your engine. It was designed for a spreadsheet. A fuel economy compliance spreadsheet that Ford submits to the federal government every year. Your truck is the mechanism through which Ford improves that number. Your bearing life is the price. The engineers at Ford are not villains. The feature works exactly as intended under controlled laboratory conditions with auxiliary oil pressure support. The problem is that your F-150 does not have that support. It has a button that resets every time you turn the key, and most owners never press it, because nobody told them to. You are not helpless here. The fix exists. It is free, it is permanent, and it is available to you right now, tonight, before your next drive. The FOR scan guide is in the description. The $12 cable link is in the description. Everything you need is there. And here is the thing I want you to carry from this video. Your F-150's EcoBoost is one of the most capable engines Ford has ever put in a pickup truck. Properly maintained, with auto start-stop disabled, with correct oil intervals, with a 30-second cold start idle, that engine can run 300,000 miles without major work. I have seen it. I have documented it. It is achievable. The only thing standing between you and that outcome is a button on your dashboard and 20 minutes with a $12 cable. That is it. The engineering is already on your side. Ford built a great engine. They surrounded it with a feature that works against it. Your job is to remove that feature from the equation, and then get out of the way and let the engineering do what it was designed to do. Kevin's second F-150 has 22,000 miles on it as of this recording. The auto start-stop has been disabled since day one. His oil gets changed every 5,000 miles. The engine sounds clean. The turbos spool up the way they should. He sends me a photo of the odometer every 10,000 miles with no message, just the photo. He doesn't need to say anything. We both know what it means. If this changed the way you think about your truck, hit the like button so other F-150 owners find this before they get handed an estimate they cannot afford. Subscribe if you want mechanic-level knowledge, the kind that dealerships genuinely hope you never find. And drop a comment below. Has your F-150 been running auto start-stop this whole time? Tell me your mileage. Tell me your year. Your story might be the thing that saves someone else's engine. Because the most expensive F-150 repair is not the one that breaks your truck. It is the one that breaks your trust in a vehicle you depended on. And now you have the knowledge to make sure that never happens.